I was struggling with anxiety and depression, and I did struggle with that for years. And I, of course, being a provider, I had a lot of colleagues, friends, and everything. So I would see them, right, for my care. And I received a bunch of different medications for my symptoms to treat anxiety, to treat depression. And then those medications would give me migraines. So then I had medications for migraines, and then the migraine medications would give me nausea. So it got to the point where I was taking like 3 or 4 medications.
And welcome to today's episode on Carpe Diem Living the podcast. I am your host, Shane Gitmed, and today we have a guest by the name of Fernanda. And we were just chatting before this, and we were just so excited to hit record and get all this knowledge out there. So Fernanda, tell us about your background with the medical world and just what you do with your business.
Hi, Shane. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited to be here. And yes, I am an advanced practice registered nurse. I have been an advanced practice registered nurse for the past 5 years, a nurse for the past 10. And basically my mission right now is to create a positive impact worldwide. So basically giving more information to people, to anybody, about how our mind and how our emotions directly tie up to our health. So that's a disconnection that a lot of people don't necessarily see. It's not just what you're eating, which of course matters, and it matters tremendously, and we can maybe go into detail later in the show, but it's also what's eating you as far as what's in your mind. So bringing this awareness, I think it's key in helping people move from disease to health, to wellness, to balance. As far as myself, aside from my career as a nurse practitioner, I also host a podcast, Positive Blueprints podcast, and I have a live show every Wednesday. It's Wellness Wednesday Inspiration. I go live with a functional medicine chiropractor and nutritionist. So it's been a journey, and I am so thankful and so happy to be here and ready to share anything that I can with you and your audience.
Definitely. And I fell in love with naturopathic everything. Like literally the first time I heard about it, I remember I was with a friend and I was just telling her like everything that was going on with my gut. And she was like, "Oh, I have a recommendation for you." And the second I go there, they do the tests for all different types of things. It's just like, you feel mind blown. You're just like, why is no one else talking about this? Why isn't there enough information? And why are we still wrapped in Western medicine? So tell us about your journey. What brought you to this profession?
It started actually when I was younger. I was 17 years old, and getting a little bit personal, I became pregnant at the age of 17. Totally, of course, unexpected. And my family reacted badly, as anybody can imagine. And I don't blame them. I thank them because their reaction to my situation, one that I was in at that point, led me to be where I am today. But basically, they said that I had become another statistic, being Hispanic and being pregnant at the age of 17 and all these things, that I was never going to be able to do anything with my life. So I went to college and I had an appointment with a counselor, and I asked her, I'm into wellness and I'm into helping people and everything, but I don't know if I can do it. So she talked to me about nursing, the nursing career, and basically she kind of held my hand and helped me with the registration and whatnot. And 4 years later, I was a nurse. So then when I graduated as a nurse and I started working in different settings, community settings and some other settings, I found such a passion and I wanted to help even more. I knew that I could do more. So then I continued going to school, and I eventually got my advanced practice registered nurse degree 5 years ago. And I've been practicing as an advanced practitioner since then. However, something along the lines about maybe 2 years ago, I want to say, kind of transformed and shifted my focus once again into focusing now on how the mind, again, directly impacts our overall health. So it's been such a journey. It's been an amazing journey. And that's kind of what led me to choosing nursing and sticking with nursing. And I do believe that if I had not gotten pregnant, maybe at the age of 17, I would not maybe in such a quote unquote hurry to figure out my life, to figure out a career path, to figure out some other way to maybe organize my life. And I know that I would have not taken that decision that I made that day to go to school and figure out how I could actually make my dream come through.
That is so true. Sometimes you just need a little nudge, right? I love connecting the dots that way too. When I look back on my journey, I'm like, see, if that situation hadn't happened, it would not have propelled me to move forward and, think quick, just to give you that push. And especially when you feel that calling, I know that calling you're talking about, because for me, when I have a calling coming on to me, I can't stop thinking about it. My mind is constantly just so fixated when I sleep, when I'm doing anything else, to a point where you can't ignore it. And you're like, okay, fine. I'm just going to go on. Right. So that's really cool. Where are you located? I don't think I asked you that.
I am currently in Arizona. I've been a resident of Arizona for a month. I was in Illinois for the past 20. So all my schooling and everything was done in Illinois, and enjoying the sunny weather here in Arizona now.
Yeah, I was going to say it's very different when you go from Illinois, where you have your crazy winters and everything, and then you go to Arizona and it's desert. Does Arizona even have seasons, or is it just constantly hot? Do you know? I wonder.
So it gets pretty hot in the summer, and then it gets less hot.
So you don't really, yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so funny. So when it comes to connecting the mind and the gut, and it's funny because I know there are people that are skeptical. They're just kind of like, no, it's separate. What do you mean? It's just kind of like how I was telling you earlier before we were recording, that deconditioning where the body is all separated. Like for me, the biggest thing that I've noticed is we have specialists in this, or we have a dermatologist, or we have a gastro. And so when you get used to that setup, you just assume like, oh no, like if I do this, it's not going to affect that. So what was the biggest aha moment for you when you're like, wow, the mind and the gut really are so connected?
Well, to me, it was actually more on a personal journey. I was struggling with anxiety and depression, and I did struggle with that for years. Mm-hmm. And I, of course, being a provider, I had a lot of colleagues, friends, and everything. So I would see them, right, for my care. And I received a bunch of different medications for my symptoms to treat anxiety, to treat depression. And then those medications would give me migraines. So then I had medications for migraines, and then the migraine medications would give me nausea. So it got to the point where I was taking like 3 or 4 medications. And I remember one time I was taking my medications at night, and my husband walked into the bathroom and he said, I think, and he didn't mean it in a negative way, but he said, I think you take more medications. And that to me was kind of like that shock, that realization of like, why am I doing this? And why do I depend on these medications? And why am I in this place, right? If you had to put a word, I was healthy, but I was so unhealthy mentally. My physical body was okay. My blood work was normal. My health was normal. I was moving, no pain, nothing like that. But my emotional pain was taking such a toll on me that it was causing these other medical problems and side effects and whatnot from the medications. So I was actually in a very kind of dark place at that point. And going to work the following day after he made the comment, I was so desperate that I was asking the universe, what else can I do? What else can I do to help, to feel better? I'm taking all these medications. I'm going to my appointments. I was going to counseling. I had a therapist. I had all these things. I was doing distraction. I've always read. So I was doing like healthy things to distract myself, yet I was not feeling any better. And on my way back from work, I don't believe in coincidences. I think it was God speaking through me, through my cell phone. Mm-hmm. A video came on my phone, and the video was The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that video.
No, but I'm going to check it out after this.
Check it out. Yeah. That video transformed my life at that moment. It's a 30-minute video. After those 30 minutes, I have never been the same person. That video kind of helped me realize that the mind, everything starts in the mind, basically. And I had dug that hole because of my thoughts and my emotions, and because of my lack of control on my thoughts and emotions. So every time I would feel bad, horrible, and all these things, that everything's wrong, and why can't I be happy, and why does these things happen? Like all these things, right? Instead of realizing for a second that I was in charge of those thoughts, and if I didn't like the way that they made me feel, I could simply kind of change the channel or change the radio station and think about something different, think about something that would have been of benefit for me. And that specific video kind of sparked this journey of reading completely different books and embarking in self-growth and going into seminars. And I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Are you intuitive? Because I literally was thinking of him and you just said his name and I was like, oh, it's like you read my mind.
Awesome. Yeah. We're connecting. So I've been studying his work for a couple of years now, and I've been doing all of these things aside from changing my lifestyle and changing the decisions. And of course, being completely, as much as I can, being completely aware of my thoughts. And the moment the thoughts come to my mind that are not beneficial, that are not positive, then being aware to switch those thoughts into something that is going to be of benefit for me and my health.
I agree completely with that, because I think, for one, I know a lot of things happen in all of our lives, right? From childhood to adulthood. And for me, I think that's been the biggest thing I had to focus on throughout my journey, was getting my mindset right. Because I did grow up with anxiety, depression. And during those years, I didn't know it was that. I just thought, oh, I'm just really hype, fast paced and whatever. But then when I started going to therapy, talking therapy at the age of 19, that's when the dots were connecting. Oh my gosh. Because you just think, oh, stress is stress. We don't put as much effort into not just managing it, but trying to actually solve it. I think honestly, and this is mainly my opinion, but we live in a culture where if you're stressed out, go have a drink. Oh, you're stressed out, go do this. And usually they're not the actual positive things, right? They're things that will cause more anxiety and depression. And because we live in that type of culture, I think that's why the cycle doesn't end for some. And I think really just snapping out of it and checking yourself, checking in and being like, hey, I know I feel anxious. What is causing that? And let's move on. I know that's been a work in progress for myself, depending on what's going on. But I think as long as you try to be as mindful as possible and you are aware, that's key. Because I've gotten a lot better about it over the years. And now, my son's 3. So I have like a different type of anxiety now. Now it's like, oh, an anxiety that I definitely can't control. Well, I can control, but it's not something that I am doing. It's like trying to not feel like I have to control everything, as far as like, yeah, you can't control a toddler. You can't control many things. But yeah, I think that's really important to really make the connections.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's huge knowing too that a lot of the diseases that are going on right now, a lot of the chronic conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, many types of cancers, many of those conditions that we're dealing and we're seeing pandemics of these conditions right now that cost billions of dollars every single year, and that literally cost the lives of so many people in the world. Most of these conditions could be slowed down, could be cured, could be resolved, could be reversed if we treat the problem at the root. And many times the root of the problem, again, goes from what we're putting in our mind and what we're putting in our bodies. Yeah. And if we're not aware of our thoughts, if we're not aware of what we're eating, what's eating at us in regards to our thoughts, and we live this life of chronic stress and not giving ourselves time, not listening to our body, not eating good nutritious food, not feeding our mind with positive thoughts that are going to benefit us. And we do this over and over and over and over again for 5, 10, 15 years. And then you go to the doctor and you get diagnosed with diabetes. It's like, okay, well, what can I do now? Right? And many times the decision would be, okay, start taking this medication. Medications are not fixing. Medications may control stuff, may give you side effects, may control stuff in the meantime. But if you really want to solve a problem, you have to look at the root problem. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to look at your mind and your gut.
And the medication aspect, I completely understand where you're coming from about that, because when my gut issues were bad, so this is So this was basically a recipe for disaster health-wise for me. So when my gut issues were at its worst, this is when I had severe allergies all of a sudden. I was constantly going in and out of the ER because my gut would just bloat up really crazily and like my bowel movements weren't good. I was in school full time, and my partner at the time was also deployed overseas because he was in the military. So when you put all of that, and he was going to be gone for 9 months, and I was living out of state, I wasn't even around friends and family because when in the military life, usually you don't live anywhere near friends and family. You just have your significant other and kids. But at that time, I didn't have kids. I just had one dog. So at this point, I had just freshly moved away from my home state, California. So I was just kind of like, oh man, being a young adult, school full time, my significant other is in war right now. This was just insane. So that's why when I look back, I'm like, oh my goodness, the stress was out of control. Out of control. I did not know how to manage anything, like as far as my health. You know what I mean? I was listening to doctors. I went to an allergy specialist. I was taking so many medications because I was prescribed. And growing up, I always had this follow the rules mindset. If a professional or someone that went to school for this, if they're telling me, oh, you need XYZ, I'm going to listen. That's just what we've all been trained to do over the years. So when you were told that you take more medication, I get that. I had the pill organizer with like over 5 different ones. And I'm thinking, oh, if I just keep taking these, I'll get better. I'll get better. But man, did I go through years of nothing resolved, no answers, frustration. And what nudged me to get fully healthy was my son. Because if I hadn't had my son, I'm just going to keep being a workaholic. I'm just going to keep living. Little did I know it was actually eating away at my health. I thought I was okay. I'm managing. I'm taking Benadryl when I have an allergic reaction or something. But after having him, that was definitely the wake-up call. Look, if you want to be able to take care of this child, you need to be okay on every level. So the emphasis of the mind, body, soul, even when I feel imbalanced in some way, I like check in, not like a list, but I kind of know if my back's been hurting, okay, what's causing that stress? And then just kind of going, I call it the rabbit hole. Like when you're just trying to, trace your steps back and figure out the root. So, I mean, honestly, I wish I could change my podcast name to The Root, because a lot of the guests, we always say like the root is, if you don't look at that, you're never going to solve what you're trying to do. You're never
going to solve it. But in your case, so many things were going on. And all of these things were creating stress in your body. A lot of people don't realize is, okay, yes, you're stressed, and we are meant to be stressed for survival purposes. When we are threatened by any situation, if we have a gun in our head or something, we are meant to be stressed because it's survival, right? We get more alertness, and our respiration kind of gets more focused, and we're like clear-minded, and we're thinking about what we need to do, and all these changes happen in our bodies. The blood loses flow from non-essentials to essential organs, et cetera, et cetera. The problem with this is when we are under stress on a daily basis for things that are not like a gun in our heads, right? Like traffic jams, or maybe a coworker did something to us that annoyed us, or maybe our kid made a mess on the floor, or things like that, that are literally stressing the life out of us. And then when we are submitting ourselves to this chronic stress day after day after day, in your situation, it was a new place, you were away from your family, you were young and dealing with all of these changes. So your cortisol was being increased, and your adrenals were releasing cortisol all the time.
Right.
And when cortisol gets released all the time, eventually it causes inflammation. And with inflammation comes many of these diseases that we see nowadays. Now, like you said, you can take these medications and you're like, okay, I'm okay, the symptoms controlled, but that's not the way to get cured. You're not going to get cured unless you go to the bottom, the base, the root problem, which in your case, I can only assume that it was all this stress that you were being under. Your body was overreacting, and this overreaction was causing your immune system to overreact, to say, okay, what's going on? She's under threat. I need to be alert. I need to react. I need to create like an allergic response. And then you developed it, you manifested it in the form of allergies.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. That's when I look at the history of it all, I'm saying that's what it was. Because all of my major health issues started at that time. I was perfectly fine before that. Well, okay, let me take it back. Not perfectly fine. Physically, I was perfectly fine, but mentally I was already dealing. So it's like when you go from already an anxious person and then it gets increased by 100 times, of course, so many other things are going to come out of that. And so even now, keeping my cortisol levels at bay has been my biggest focus, whether it's through herbs. I love herbs because those really help. I'm definitely, of course, I'm anti-medication, because I'm sure you've seen the commercials where they're like, oh, we've created a new product for this, but you may experience depression, you may have a heart attack, you may what in the world? And I'm just like, is anyone else hearing this? How does anyone think that's the drug I want to try next when I go see my doctor? That's crazy.
It's just the mentality that we are on right now. We believe that by taking a medication, even if it has a ton of side effects, it's supposed to help us, then we should take it. Like you were saying before, you're not supposed to question the professionals. You're not supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to do as you're told. However, when you realize that there are other ways, that there are actually treatments, not just a Band-Aid, but treatments that will get to the roots of the problem. However, it takes work, right? Mm-hmm. It takes work to be aware of your thoughts. It takes work to eat healthier. It takes work to exercise. It takes work to make the decisions that are going to benefit you. Anything worth in life, it's hard. Nothing worthwhile, it's going to be easy. So if you are in a situation where you are maybe finding yourself stuck, or maybe finding yourself dealing with a chronic medical condition, something that is threatening your life, your health, your wellness, your well-being, your family, friends, it's influencing in a negative way with any part of your life, you can get better. We can help you get better. However, you need to do the work. I can only tell patients so many things, but if they don't do the things themselves, if they're not willing to put in the work, then really nothing changes. So everything takes work, but it's much better to work at something maybe for 6 months, a year, and then not have to worry about it again, than having to take a medication for the rest of your life and not really resolving or fixing anything.
Exactly. And one great example I like to mention, especially from someone that was taking medications, is my mom. She had high blood pressure for many years, and she was prescribed a high blood pressure medication, and it was from stress. And I mean, she had a very tough situation when I was growing up, being a single mom and everything like that, and having to provide for us. And so I understood at that time, like a lot of her anxiety and her depression came from that. And so she was on her blood pressure medication for a while. And then when she really started doing the holistic route with juicing, changing her diet, eating certain things mindfully, knowing that this is going to help her blood levels and everything. And now she's off her medication completely. And I'm just like, that is a miracle, because obviously I don't know what the side effects are of blood pressure medication, but I can only assume it's just damaging another organ. It's going to cause another side effect of some sort. So, and especially for my journey, I realized throughout everything I've gone through was I had to emphasize on my liver. So for you, when you talk to others about their gut health, what tips do you normally give them if someone was starting out on their holistic journey, trying to resolve their gut issues? What would you tell them?
So the first thing is there is a direct connection between our gut and our brain. And a lot of people fail to know this. It's something that we don't really talk about, but everything we eat directly impacts the way we think. So when we're eating crappy foods, we're thinking crappy thoughts, or our thoughts are not as clear. We're not thinking straight. We're not as bright, maybe as smart as we would like to be. So that's one thing. The next thing is anything that you're eating. Second thing is your immune system. Over 80% of your immune system is in your gut. So if you're eating things that are destroying your gut, that are destroying your intestines, in a sense, that are harming or damaging your intestines, then you're directly harming and affecting your immune system, 80% of your immune system. So a lot of times people say, well, you know, I'm okay, I'm healthy, but then they eat badly. And for example, with the virus, you know, many times you're like, okay, I feel okay. And you see people that are okay, and then they get something like a cold or a flu, and then they're like in bed for five days. And it's like, okay, well, you were healthy. Well, they're not eating well. And when you don't eat well, your immune system directly gets impacted. Again, 80% of your immune system. The third thing is how you eat. Literally, it's how you feed your body. So your food is your gas. It's like thinking about your body like it's a car, right? And if you have a car that it's diesel, you can't put the wrong fuel, otherwise the car is going to break down. So we are not meant to be eating all of the foods that we are encountering nowadays, all of the more accessible foods, the fast foods and all the processed GMOs and all of these toxins and pesticides and chemicals and all of these things that are in our foods right now. We're not designed to be literally eating all these pesticides and all these things. So eventually, all of these toxins begin to accumulate in our bodies. So there is a sense of what you're eating as far as healthy foods for nutrition purposes, but also in your immune system and how it impacts the way that you think about life and decisions and anything in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that example of how you said, like, think of your body as a car. And then would you put the wrong gas in that car? Because I think a lot of people just, I really don't know. Like why, to me, it doesn't seem that hard. If we know that we're not designed to eat all these artificial things, then why would you continue to eat artificial things and expect good results? It's just a lot that has to do with cultural things. Oh, have you seen the show with Zac Efron where they go to like different places? Okay.
The first episode only.
Oh, the first episode. Okay. You got to finish it. It's so good. But I love that the show was really showing, the world like, hey, this is how it's supposed to be. This is why other countries are healthier than others. How health conscious are they? And I mean, as time goes on, I've just only become more passionate about everything wellness. I know that there's just a plethora of information that I'm still haven't hit yet, but that's why I feel like a sponge. Just give it to me. Let me learn. So yeah, that's great that there's people out there like you and I that just want to spread this information to whoever is willing to listen, because it does, like you said, it does take work. And I mean, during COVID, what else are you doing anyway? You might as well just try and learn as much as you can, because we're already stuck at home and everything's online now. So that makes it easier.
Like in 5 years, if we're alive in 5 years, of course, whatever decisions you're making right now will directly impact how you are, how you feel, how you do, how you think, how you look in 5 years. So whether you're making health conscious decisions or whether or not you're not making any health conscious decisions, you will find that out soon enough. Your body's not going to lie. Anything how you feel right now are the decisions that you made a couple of years ago, and how you will feel in a couple of years are the decisions that you are making today. Right.
And one thing that I was just from research and from shows, the countries where they have a lot of people that reach 100 years old, of course, we're fascinated. How did you make it that long? And it all comes down to their diet, their environment, and just the mindfulness behind their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And if there's anything that we can take from that is just knowing to pay attention to what you're doing towards your body and what's around you. You can live as long as possible. I don't know if I want to live till 100, but I definitely want to live quite more years. I have a lot of work to do. I feel like there's so much that I want to do. Yeah. So,
and it's not only about the quantity of our life, how many years we live, but the quality of it. It's not the same of living in a fulfilled wellness state for, X amount of years than living sick and in pain and with chronic conditions and all of these medications and dealing with side effects, and then being able to move, not being able to enjoy your life, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just about quantity, but more, I think, more importantly about quality.
Yes, absolutely. Quality over quantity. That's for sure a theme I have. And even that's why my dream right now is to have a garden. I really want to have a garden where I grow my own food, because if you would have asked me a couple years ago about doing that, I would have been like, are you crazy? I don't have a green thumb at all. But now just seeing what's going on, and every day you're almost hearing about different things that all of a sudden there's a recall, or there was this ingredient and it's causing cancer. It's just scary. It really causes me to think, having my son, I don't want anything dangerous around him. So I've literally transformed our household over time. Non-toxic cleaning supplies, organic fruits and veggies, alkaline water, because even just like how you're talking about the things that go into your body is like gas, just like your food, your quality of your water is important too.
Water is huge.
Huge. So I kind of made like a laundry list of like, what's everything that I could adjust just to really live that lifestyle. And yeah, I've hit just about at least the main ones. There's one thing that I'm going to be trying soon. It's Cmos. Have you heard about anything with Cmos?
I have not.
Okay, I think you'll really love this. So Cmos, I heard this from another guest that was on the show, and this wild-crafted Cmos that mainly comes from Jamaica, it has almost every vitamin and nutrient that your body needs. I think it's short of like 10, but has all of the rest, and you can cook with it, you can drink it. And yeah, this Cmos is known to, I don't want to say it's a cure, but it's think of it as almost like a supplement, right? To make up for the gaps that are in your health. And one example that they were telling me is not only, like I said, they drink it and they cook with it. They have a son that had eczema, just something going on with the skin, and they put it on and it was gone. And you know how with eczema, they treat it with ointments or a steroid or all this other stuff. And so I was blown away because part of my food allergies trickled in eczema. Of course, I acquired eczema. Yeah, I acquired eczema during another stressful chapter of my life, which I'm already cured from it. So I did a lot of work. It took quite some time getting a handle on that, cleansing the body of what was causing it. But yeah, so Cmos is another new thing I'm going to be experimenting with. And I have a very picky eater son. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to put some Cmos in his food because you can't really taste it if you mix it with other stuff. So I'm going to have him do that.
Thank you for that. I will be checking it out. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be really cool because I've never heard of it from any holistic professional at all until I met them. And they're vegan weight loss coaches, and they've lost over 100 pounds collectively just with the vegan lifestyle. And they came from a background of health conditions and being overweight. And so now that they've switched all this to just eating clean, it's amazing. And they're from the South too. I just love how much learning about wellness is transforming people's lives. Nothing makes me happier than knowing, yes, you're on the right path and now you're going to benefit from it. Your family's going to benefit from it. And I'm actually staring at a decal I have in my office, and it says, live life to the fullest and make a difference along the way. And it's a constant reminder of why we do what we do, which is this job that we chose to live or to work is priceless to me. So I can't thank, you enough for doing what you do on your podcast and your show with your other co-hosts. And it's really making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you.
So where can our listeners find you? I know they're probably going to have a million questions.
I will be more than happy to answer any question. Absolutely. I live and breathe these things. I love the concepts of helping people and helping transform people's lives, like you were saying. To find me, you can go to www.positiveblueprints.com. That's my webpage. And also the podcast is Positive Blueprints. That's the same thing for IG, Instagram, and Facebook. At Positive Blueprints is the handle. And on the Positive Blueprints Facebook page is where we go live on these wellness podcasts every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So either you can contact me on Facebook, on Instagram, you can contact me by email. My email address is on my webpage. So there is a contact form. I do have different ways, and I would be extremely excited and happy to be able to help and serve anybody.
Yes, that's perfect. So yes, and then Fernanda's already in our Podcast Insiders group too. So if you, for some reason, you can't find her on any of those, which you should be able to, but if you can't, she's in the group as well. So thank you all again for listening. I hope you found all of this helpful, and we'll chat with you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you.